I mean, I'd hate for you to feel like an imposter.
I know, right? Totally. Yeah.
Look at that. On that note, welcome back to the show, everybody. Hello, everyone. Dana and
Do you
I
ever
were yeah, go ahead,
t-
Dana.
yeah. Do you ever feel like you're pretending to be who you are and you're an imposter and one day, just like is it that movie no, it's not Soylent Green. It's what's the one where the pod people emerge and then they all become with Donald Sutherland? Do you remember what that was named? Cocoon, not Cocoon. This is going to be totally lost on the listeners because they have no idea what I'm talking about.
It's
Do you
not
know
like
which one I'm
V,
talking?
right?
No, there's a movie from the 70s. It'll come to me later where it basically aliens come down and every person they sort of grab, they turn into this. It looks like a big cocoon, and then they become that person. And so all these people are actually not who they are. They're just like their skin sack, and they actually have an alien in them. And at the very end, everybody thinks Donald Sutherland's trying to he's the only one left that is actually still a human. At the very end, one of his people that he's been trying to tell everybody about it comes up to him, and he does this thing where he points at him and he goes like, and it's like, you're an imposter. You wouldn't know, you are not a pod person. You're a real person. You remember
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, thank you very much. Do you
You're
ever
welcome.
feel like at some point, whether it's at work or whatever it is, I get this a lot from people who are self-diagnosed autistics, and they come to me to be assessed, and one of their reasons for doing that is saying, I feel like I'm an imposter. Like, all the years of research I've done isn't enough. It has to be you telling me I am. But just feeling like you're not really like you're not competent, or
Yeah.
you and I've been practicing for a long time, and I'll still sometimes feel like, oh my God, do I know what I'm doing?
Dana and I often text each other when there's something that might happen, and we're just needing a little bit of a reality check on,
Oh God,
are we
yeah.
overreacting here? I just wanted to get a touch on, a touch on reality. I will say, I often, so the idea, so I'll read the, imposter syndrome. What is that, right? It's like when you're anxious or not experiencing your own success internally, yet on the outside, you're pretty high performing in lots of objective kinds of ways.
Yeah.
I feel like, so I often feel like this, even though I know that where I am, I tend to be an expert in my particular field where I am. And I don't necessarily embrace that per se. And if I think about why, my first thought goes to my cultural kind of upbringing, which was assimilation. So, born in Malaysia, immigrate to Calgary, Alberta, I don't know, whatever.
No change there.
I found out why. I just recently found out why we did that.
My God.
And, for us, it was, how do you assimilate into this culture? Because that was going to lead to the most success. And so there was a lot of suppression of my culture, suppression of individuality, suppression of standing out. And there's this phrase that my parents used to use, and it really translated into, the nail that sticks up gets hit on the head.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, this idea of don't stand out, don't, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so be humble, right? What are these words? Be humble. Don't be dramatic. Don't be a braggart.
Oh, yeah.
These types of things. And so,
well, it's like a deadly sin, right? Is to have pride. Right. Isn't that one of the, yeah.
And so, for those of us that have been doing a very, very specific niche of work for decades, right? And we've accumulated a lot of
Yep.
experience and a lot of knowledge and
Yeah.
have come to these places. Um, I laugh. I mean, like, I'm like, who's listening to us, Dana? I mean, yeah, come
Right.
to listen to Dana, but me, like, what do I have to say?
Oh,
I
I'm the other way. Yeah.
still have that. I
Yeah,
still
one of the
have
things
that
I
piece.
texted Gwen about the other day was one of my colleagues where I work, just sort of flippantly saying, because we have a clinic through the school,
Oh
let's
my
put
God.
together a let's put together an autism assessment so our students can assess people for autism. And I freaked out. I'm like,
Rightly
what are
so.
you talking about? And so initially, I'm like, this is not a good idea. It's more complex than that. You have to be versed and be an expert in this before you can even wade into this, yada, yada, yada. And I immediately texted Gwen, oh my God, this thing is happening. Am I overreacting? I even used those words. Am I overreacting?
Yeah.
Because I just assume maybe I'm having a reaction that isn't really about like what I know about autism, but I'm overreacting and I'm flaking out for no reason. And you're like, yes, this is terrible. And you can't have none of our supervisors know what it is. You can't supervise someone doing something when the supervisor isn't competent and that kind of stuff. But it is that, and I don't have the same background you do, but German, Austrian roots are like you just don't show pain ever, and you just act as if that you're fine. Everything's fine. It isn't being narcissistic about it, but everything's just sort of stoically fine.
Stoic.
And
It's
so,
stoic.
yeah, so when I find
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
a reaction to something, or if I don't know something, there's a sense of, oh, this is finally it. This is where I finally come up against my wall all through grad school. This is going to be the class that's going to kill me, right? This is going to be the one that I'm not going to make it. As I get my diploma, as I get licensed, as I do this, as I do that, as I get board certified, this is where they're going to figure it out. And it hasn't happened yet. And yet, still, I'll get a question of someone on social media and I'll be like, should I be on here? Should I? What do I know? And I do have a lot of information about it. I don't know everything, absolutely.
No. No. Yeah.
And I hear this time and time again in clients. I think it's more common in women because of socialization around that, just where you talked about fit in, don't make waves, that kind of thing. And I see it just in spades in my neurodivergent clients and students and friends because I think we've been sort of beat down so often, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Or if you think you know what you're talking about, but in the moment you don't have the words for it, now you're seen as incompetent and it's not, now you're this imposter, right? It never really completely goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of intersectionality, right? Like we're talking
Yeah.
about cultural pieces, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
talking about gender pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say that being Asian, um, I think as when I was younger, I didn't really, I wasn't as aware of the cultural differences that I experienced. That I didn't know
Mm.
I lived in
Like it was
literally the
happening to
most.
you, weren't aware that it was happening. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and in Calgary, which is at that time in the 70s was predominantly white, and
Mm. Mm.
I didn't realize that we were in really an impoverished area of Calgary,
Mm.
which
Mm-hmm.
brought a lot of immigrants actually. And so,
Yeah.
like, my
Yeah.
neighbor was from Trinidad, my other neighbor was from India. I had people from like, so I actually was kind of insulated, I think,
And you were just
from
like other people were going through the same thing, right?
right, like, oh, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I've gotten older and just kind of more aware of my surroundings and myself,
Mm.
I
Mm.
still experience quite a bit of like, there's already a reaction, and it's almost, it's not even, it doesn't even look malicious or
Mm. Mm.
intentional.
Mhm.
It's almost just reflexive, like, oh, whoa, I've never seen, like, we've
There
traveled
it
to some
is.
parts of the country, like, oh, you're not,
Oh,
you don't look like you don't look like who
yeah.
I would expect, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
but I think that has really played a role for me regarding my presentations
Yeah.
or my
Yeah.
expert witness testimonies or whatever that is,
Mhm.
being an Asian woman, well,
Mhm.
especially in the field of psychology, which was
Yeah.
predominantly white men for a long
Right. Right.
time. That was just really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do question myself. Like, I find myself to be a little people pleasing on the people pleasing end.
Yeah.
And so when someone comes at me with something,
Mm-hmm.
and this might be another reason why I don't put myself necessarily out there on socials either.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard for me to
Yeah.
manage
Yeah.
that kind
I
of
think the people pleasing thing is really
information.
important because I think it's adaptive also. We talk about,
Yeah.
reasons for
Oh,
things because if you think someone's mad at you or questioning you or whatever, if you smooth it over, it's okay.
yeah.
Right? So it makes sense to kind of do that. Like, oh, you're ruffled. It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
So you learn to do that to kind of just keep things not conflictual. It certainly makes sense to do that, right?
Yeah.
I marvel at these
Yeah.
people that can really get into a topic and just dig in and they're like, no, this is the way it is. And I'm like, I can't, I just feel like I can't do that. Not, which is interesting, not in psychology, which I've been doing probably longer than anything else. But if it were to come to like a carpentry project, I'm like, I know this. I have no problem saying you can't do that. It's not code, you can't pass it, whatever. Maybe it's because it's more tangible. I don't know.
It's more concrete. Yeah, it's more concrete.
More
Like, you're
concrete,
like,
and probably why I like it so much, right?
there's
Yeah.
a threshold, right? Like, it's like, no, it's
Yeah,
this
yeah,
or not. Like, it's so clear.
yeah.
And in psychology, it's so not clear.
Right.
I mean, this
And
is why
sports,
we
probably why I
get,
like
yeah.
sports, right?
Yes.
There's rules and we always I get upset when I think the ref made a call that isn't what it really is. And so now we're into
Oh,
that
it's
ambiguity
awful.
ambiguity. But for the
Yep.
most part, it's like the rules are there and they're how they're to be. But if you're in a field where it's so many things, could be so many different things,
Could be
maybe
so
it's
many
it's
things.
ripe for that. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, it's interesting then, Dana, why you and I went into psychology then, if when
I
we
know.
really feel more comfortable with the concrete details.
Which is funny because there's a paradox. I think I went into psychology because I joke with my students. I say, if I could have $1 for every time I said it depends, I could
Yeah.
retire now. And there is some
Yeah.
safety in that. Like, well, it depends. There isn't things aren't as concrete. So on the flip side, there can be some relief in that because it could depend, right? It could be
Yeah.
4 or 5 different things. It isn't always that one thing, right? It's so
Yeah.
weird how as humans sort of do that, right?
Yeah. Yes, and what we
Hmm.
gravitate towards. But this idea
Yeah.
of, again, like, despite the external objective accomplishments and achievements, we still
Right.
feel like a fraud.
Yeah, or we're gonna get in
Right?
trouble. This is the thing that someone's gonna see where you don't know what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "See, Dana, don't listen to Dana and Gwen." And I
Yeah.
don't think you and I have do this in order to say we're right and everyone else is wrong. I don't think
No.
that's the case at all. It's
Yeah.
it's really a space for us to be able to talk about talk to increase awareness, right? And
Yeah.
and create a space where it can be we can just have a real conversation.
Yeah, that's what I like about the 12-step motto of take what you want and
Yeah.
leave the rest. So I
Love
really
it.
don't expect everything to hit the nail on the head,
No.
in a good way, not the bad way that you learned.
Yeah.
Um, but there is some ambiguity and not everybody's gonna agree. For me, I think that was a watershed, and I just learned it through social media, is people are gonna have different opinions, and it's okay. And it's like, "Oh, okay. That's fine. I don't have to feel like I'm wrong and go to this place if I'm in trouble because that imposter thing kind of
Yes.
comes with that feeling in your pit of your stomach, like I'm
Yes.
in trouble, I'm going to get in trouble. And there are all kinds of things that can sort of breed that happening. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
weird. There's something in our field that people that I talk to, um, it's mostly people that have less privilege. The more privilege variables you don't have, the more imposter stuff creeps in versus like a cis older rich white man. He's just like, it's my way or the highway. I don't know if they experience imposter syndrome or maybe they just don't admit it, but it seems like the more real reasons you could sort of be marginalized, the more this seems to happen. And certainly if you're neurodiverse, you've been marginalized like crazy. And so you've probably learned this sense of feeling like you're an imposter, even if you are pretty versed in what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the difficult part about neurodiversity is it's hidden.
Yeah,
A lot of
exactly.
times it's hidden, right? It's not like
Yep.
your cultural, your ethnic variable, your gender variable. You know
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying? Like,
Yep.
it's the way in which you experience the world. you
Yeah.
know, how in the
Yeah.
world do you see that? You
Yeah.
know, and so how do we do that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, anyway. Well, everyone, I mean,
Let us know your thoughts. Do you suffer
yeah.
from this? And did some of the thoughts we had kind of capture that, or did we miss something? Let us know. Yeah.
I mean, does being an imposter resonate with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, does it resonate with you in any way,
Hmm.
shape, or form? And Dana and I are, you know, sharing our own personal experiences of being in this field for decades, really focused on a particular niche. So
Yeah.
grabbing a lot of expertise, which is why
Right.
Dana's really rage
Yeah.
about doing the adult autism diagnosis clinic with
Yeah.
incompetent people
Yeah.
is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been talking about this on this show of how difficult it is to
Yeah.
diagnose autism in adults,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how our colleagues are flubbing it all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
they
that's
are
why I was so
causing
annoyed
harm.
by the possibility of it. The good thing is the other person that I work with who works with kids, autistic kids, agreed with me. They were like, "Yeah, this is a good idea." So that's
Good,
good. But yeah, the
good.
questioning, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just
Yeah,
continuous. Yeah.
it's just continuous. So,
Mhm.
anyway,
Mhm.
all right, for all of you self doubters out there, unite. Let's unite.
Yeah. Imposters unite.
Okay, so we've got Jomo. We've got this shirt, The Joy of Missing Out.
Yep. I
And we've
do
got
actually have a
Imposters
list of
Unite.
these.
You
Yeah, and
do?
I
Okay,
have
well,
some
you
other
might want to add
projects
that.
I'm trying to wrap up, and then I did actually buy an iPad to make these T-shirts, so they're coming. I just have to get a few things
Look
off
at
my plate first.
look at
Yeah,
Dana's our merch gal.
it's coming. I swear to
It's
God, it's
coming.
coming. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Be good to you, believe in yourself, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. Bye.